Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be the my first time tag. I thought this would be fun and something a little bit different. I have been getting a lot of new subscribers lately, so I really just want you guys to get to know me, and I just thought this would be a really fun thing. And I said it in my last video, I'm kind of overdoing makeup tutorials because I feel like I've been doing so many and I'm boring myself to death. So again, I always say this in every video, but if you guys have any requests for me, please leave it below and I'll be sure to do that. And I like to get requests from you guys because it keeps me focused. So there's about 21 questions in this tag, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so the first question is, do you still talk to your first love? No. Second question is, what was your first job? My first job was working at an antique store and I absolutely hated it. I legit sold antiques to people, cashed people out, and cleaned the store. It was the most awful first job ever and I hated it. What was your first car? Oh my god, my first car was in a few of my vlogs in the early stages of vlogging. I had a Ford Taurus and I think it was like a 95. Like legit half missing bumper. It was just horrible. People would be like, I can't believe Mariah drives that car. I feel so bad for her, but you know, that car really was a good first car. It was reliable and I hit quite a few things with it, so even though it had a missing bumper, like, oh well, because if I had a Beamer or something, that shit would have been scuffed and scratched like no other. So what are you gonna do? Or who was the first person who texted you today? My brother Seth. Who is the first person you thought of this morning? I don't know. I didn't really think of anybody this morning, but maybe Adam. Like, oh, he's at work. I usually always think about that because I'm up at 7:30 usually. And I'm like, oh, Adam's at work. So probably Adam. Who was your first grade teacher? I believe her name was Mrs. Crow, and this is really disgusting, but I'll never forget her. She was like an older woman, and she always had crusties in the corner of her mouth, like crusted up spit, and I just always just never liked her because of that. So that's how I really remember her. Mrs. Crow. Where did you go on your first airplane ride? I think my first airplane ride was to Florida. I was really, really little. I think we went to Walt Disney for the first time, and I think that was my first airplane ride. Who was your first best friend, and do you still talk to him or her? I used to be friends with this girl named Tony, and no, I do not talk to her at all anymore. It's crazy. We were really little when we were friends, and it was more of like a forced friendship, like the parents were close, but I did like her at the time when I was little, but now, you know, I mean, I know about her and I hear about her, but like we definitely don't talk at all. It's pretty crazy. Where was your first sleepover? Oh my god, my first sleepover? I don't even know. Maybe with my cousins in Canada, Alyssa and Felicia. I remember having sleepovers with them when I was really little, but prior to that, I can't even remember, so I'm assuming that they're my first sleepover buddies. Who was the first person you talked to today? My brother Seth texting. I have not had a phone conversation with one person, so I guess texting my brother Seth. Whose wedding were you in for the first time? I was in my mom's friend, Karen, who was also our babysitter. I was in her wedding, and that was the first wedding I was ever in, and I was a flower girl. What was the first thing you did this morning? The first thing I did this morning was take my vitamins and drink some coffee. What was the first concert you ever went to? My first concert, I believe, was Ryan Cabrera. Was that my first concert? Or Godsmack? I can't remember. I want to say Ryan Cabrera was my first. I was obsessed with him, like, for the longest time, guys. Like, oh my god, I wanted to marry him. It's crazy. First broken bone. I only broke one bone my entire life, and it happens to be this finger right here. Legit was, like, over here. Like, you know how your finger's like obvi straight? I broke it and it was like stuck in this position. It was horrible. It was just horrible. First piercing, probably my ears were my first piercings. And then for like a wild piercing, my belly button my junior year of high school. First foreign country, Canada. Is that considered foreign? think that's foreign, right? I mean, it's not really foreign, but first movie you remember seeing in the theaters? Oh my god. I don't know. That's like a tough question. I used to go to the movies a lot with my parents when I was younger. So it's hard for me to like sit here and tell you guys the first movie I ever saw. That's way too tough. I would never be able to think of that.
Must have been a Disney movie, right? I don't know. I remember seeing a ant movie. I think it was like a Pixar film about ants. Anybody remember that? That's the only thing I could think of.
When was your first detention? I think my first detention was sophomore year of high school. We had this teacher who I hated so much. I think everybody hated her. If the bell rang and you were not in your seat, she would give you a detention, and she was literally like the stupidest person ever. Like, I would love for her to watch this right now because it would make my life complete. But she legit was the dumbest teacher ever. Like, you're not in your seat, you get a detention, but you could be walking in anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could not be late to her class. So I had numerous detentions from her, and a funny thing about that is I remember one time I had a detention and she like makes you clean the board or something. So I was cleaning the board and one of my friends were after school and he was like, oh, you got a detention with, and I was like, yeah, I got a detention with her, and I was like, she's this and she's that, and she was coming up the stairs and she was like, I'm what, Mariah? And I got so awkward. I was like, nothing. Who was your first roommate? I never lived with anybody except my boyfriend Adam, so I guess he was my first roommate. What was the first lesson you ever took? What kind of question is this? What was the first lesson I ever took? I can't even answer that. Math? English? Who knows? Last question is, who was the first beauty related person you watched on YouTube? Bub's Beauty. She was the first person I ever watched on YouTube when I opened up my eyes to the YouTube world. I was actually looking for like a hair tutorial on like a bun or something, and I typed it in and she was the first person. I remember it was like a spring updo, and I always enjoyed watching her tutorials because she was like very understandable. Like, I could understand and like easily follow her tutorials for hair. So that was the first person I ever watched. So that completes this tag. I hope you guys got to know me a little bit better and it was fun for you to watch. If you guys want to do this tag, please leave it as a video response below so that I can see. And I tag everyone to do it, so go ahead and do it. And until next time, I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Mwah. Bye.